Here's one more thing about BigMe, Boox and Boyue, or they could call this the battle of the full Android Eink tablets. These are Eink tablets that all have access to the Google Play Store, and maybe you know that that is something that you definitely want, for you to be able to access any of those apps in all of the Google Android system. You can do it on these. I'm really talking about the three companies here because they all do a range of devices, but representing Boyue today is the P1 Pro, the MeBook P1 Pro. Representing Boox is the Boox Tab Ultra, and representing BigMe is the B1 Pro Max Plus Color. You can see them as roughly equivalent to a range of their devices. They do have a range. BigMe especially has a range of smaller devices, and it has color screens available in all different sizes, which is great to see. And Boox have a range of smaller devices. This is the Nova Air. They also do the Max devices and now the Tab X as well as a Note device and this new Ultra line, which is very interesting. Lots about that on my channel. And this is the top currently of the range of this size with Boyue. They also have the smaller size devices as well. They can all do more, but which one really does it the best? One of the biggest considerations in this comparison is going to be that idea of flow. It's about a feeling that you get from a device, really. And when I first tried out a Boox device, I really thought to myself, wow, it can do so much more, but it's so difficult to understand how it does it all. And that is one of the difficulties with these devices. They are fully featured, but they are not easy to use. And I do recommend that as being one of the first considerations you make when you're looking to buy an Eink tablet. Do you want devices which are more easy to use? In which case, go for one of the three distraction-free kings, the Kindle Scribe, or the Remarkable, or the Supernote. But I am going to run through a whole list of different categories with these, and I'm going to compare them with those categories and do a few different demonstrations today. Usefully, the Boyue has just updated just recently, and now they do have one thing they were sorely lacking, which is the split screen functionality. These two other devices look very familiar in terms of Android operating systems and have things like Miracast and already had the split screen built in. So firstly, let's talk about the Notes app, and the winner of this is definitely going to be the Boox device. The Notes app in the Boox device can do everything. You have here within the Notes all of these different tools, including things like audio recording, links, attachments, web pages, and now they also allow you to use tilt in the pencil function, which is a great addition to the Boox device. I think that's only coming on the Ultra though. The BigMe does have almost all the same features as the Boox, but it also adds the color, which is a really nice thing to have. The Boyue is a more limited note-taking functionality. It is fine, mostly, but the pen is battery powered, and that means that you have to sort of wake it up sometimes. It does have two buttons for two different types of eraser, or you can map them to highlighters as well, I think. But as you can see, you don't get much more than just writing or erasing. I think you can select and resize. There isn't the ability to take audio notes in this here. This is going to lose out in terms of the Notes app. It's 5 for the Boyue, it's 5 for the BigMe, and 7 for the Boox. The reading app, the Boox is going to win the reading app again by some distance, and this is because it has all of the different reading functions down here. For instance, the article mode and things like split view with other notes. It's really excellent. I really enjoy reading academic PDFs on this reading app. The BigMe should win this because of the color screen, and it does look fantastic. And the reading app is really quite good. It does have most of what the Boox does have. I do not believe though there is an option to do, oh yes there is, there's an option to do either 2 documents or have a notes page next door to your reading. And that is a really powerful way, a useful way to read. I really do like this as a function. They keep those book notebooks along with the actual PDF that you're reading, which is very useful, so you can always access it from within the PDF that you're reading. So in the latest update, they have now added split view, and it looks like you could add and open another book there, but it's not directly letting me do a book notebook, which would live alongside it. It does also have decent enough article mode type thing and crop, but we are limited compared to the other two. as you might be getting, what I do find difficult about these two devices is simply knowing my way around. They're just not obvious in terms of finding where I was. It might be because I haven't spent quite as much time with them, but I do find them to be considerably less flowy. And this is still a solid reading experience on the Boyue, and it's just got a little bit better with the recent update. Of course, to say, the BigMe does have that color screen for reading, which is pretty darn good. In terms of other apps, well, that's where we're really coming into our own in these devices, because we have access to the full Play Store. And Boox do a fantastic job of optimizing their apps for the e-ink screen. All three of them do give you access to all of the screen functions, so you can pick a different screen mode depending on the app that you're actually using. And they will in fact remember your preferred screen mode. The BigMe should win the other apps functionality because of that color screen. And there are so many apps that do benefit from being in color. It's not quite there in terms of the optimization yet. Boox has done a better job of optimizing a larger range of apps in my opinion. And on the Boyue it is a little bit behind the Boox in terms of its optimization, but it is still good. Let's log into UPDF, who are the sponsor of today's videos. Thank you very much to them for sponsoring this video. UPDF is a fully featured PDF reader and editor, and they're today's video sponsor, so thanks very much UPDF. UPDF stands for Universal, Productive and Fast. It's certainly all of those things, and you can see my full over video of the great features of UPDF in this video, well, after watching this one of course. My two favourite benefits of UPDF are you have full control to change text and images without ever having to leave the PDF format. You can resize or replace images, and you can change fonts, change size, and even the content of typed text. And if you have a scanned document, you can use its fast and accurate text recognition to allow you to edit the text or to copy out of the document and use it elsewhere. And you can encrypt and organize your PDFs in this delightful interface. UPDF is available on all platforms, Windows and Mac, iOS, which is iPhone and iPad, and of course Android, which is what we're looking at here today. Here it is, looking great on these three Android e-ink tablets. I must say it's certainly looking the best on the colour of the BigMe e-ink tablet here. But it looks just fine on all of these different ones. Possibly the BigMe is the least well optimized for this app. It looks great here on the Ultra as well. Right now you can get a 40% discount by just following the link in the description or in the pinned comment. And it's useful that you can use one license across all your devices. Thanks so much to UPDF for sponsoring this video. I'm gonna give the BigMe Good e-reader a 7 for other apps. The Tab Ultra is currently the best device if you want to use a range of Android apps. And the Boyue does just fine. Moving on to the hardware now. The pen and screen feel first. The Boox Tab Ultra is different to other Boox devices in that it doesn't have that frictiony surface feel. It does, however, have a lightning quick low latency, so that's really, really good. The BigMe's pen and screen feel is actually pretty darn good. The Wacom felt nibs as standard, and of course you can change those out if you prefer something different. The Boyue doesn't use a Wacom pen, it uses, I think this is the kind of Windows Surface standard, or it's not as good. You have to have a battery for a start, it has a lower latency than all the other devices. It is usable, it's not something that I would totally discount. I wouldn't totally discount the device based on this pen, but if you're someone who you know you are going to really much more enjoy a device the closer it feels to pen and paper, I would stick with one of the other two in this comparison at least. So the Ultra is going to get a 6, although it is higher for the Note Air 2, that would be a 7 in terms of its screen feel. And the BigMe is going to get a 7, it is better in this category, but the Boyue is only going to get a 4 for this category. It's usable, but no more. Design and build is next, and honestly, the Boox devices, especially since the Note Air 2 Plus, I feel like they've really come on in terms of their build quality and in terms of their aesthetic as well. I really feel they have a much more professional look about them now. And I really think the design of this device is an absolute standout currently. It works so well with the keyboard case and so many other kind of factors. And it's differentiated from the Note Air 2 lineup, which is much better if you prefer a notebook style of device. So I would seriously look upon Boox as being one of the best design and build devices that's out there, full stop. This luckily is just a comparison of the hardware, this certain point here, the design and build of the hardware, and the design and build of the BigMe hardware is very good as well. It's very solid, and they do come up with innovative features like the buttons on the pen. This is the B1 Pro pen. This pen does actually have USB charging. You have to actually charge it up separately, although the newer BigMe devices actually clip on the side and charge via a little set of pogo pins in there, because you do need to have it charged to use these Bluetooth enabled buttons. So the pen and all the different features, the design of the BigMe devices is actually very good. I certainly wouldn't discredit it for that. The design and build of the Boyue is fine, but it is designed like a tablet of a good few years ago, and it's built very, very solidly. It's a nice device. It's a very attractive device. There's nothing wrong with it. Again, it's an oldie, but it's a goodie. The design and build then for the BigMe is going to get a 7. Design and build for the Boox tab is an 8. And for the Boyue, design and build is a 5. Next, we're talking about the features, and these are fully featured devices in terms of their software, but also in terms of their hardware. All of them have microphones, all of them have speakers, and usefully, the microphones on the BigMe, actually it's an array of 4 microphones which are used in parallel with each other to actually cancel out background noise. And it has really interesting features because of that, such as the translate and the meeting minutes features as well. There's some really interesting features in this, and I've done videos on this where a meeting record can actually transcribe what you're talking about as you go, and it will play back the actual sound, and it will give a transcription if you just prefer to read what happened in the meeting, and it will give you a picture of what was actually drawn and discussed at that meeting as well. It's really, really cool. Also, the translate feature is really accurate as well. So there's lots of good things about the hardware features of this. The hardware features, and in the later devices, they have fingerprint readers and they have scanners on both front and back cameras, essentially. The Boox Tab Ultra now comes with a camera on the back as well, which is used for document scanning. The Boyue so far doesn't have a camera, although I wouldn't be surprised for them to bring out a Eink tablet with a camera, especially if that's a feature that people really enjoy on the other devices. So they're all very fully featured. It kind of comes down to how they use that though, doesn't it? And well, the BigMe Goodie Reader, it does have all of the features, but it doesn't feel necessarily the easiest to get about the device and to utilize all of those in a daily kind of driver situation. But the hardware features are there, and the software team at BigMe could make better use of those in terms of making them a bit more flowy, a bit more usable, a bit more intuitive for us as end users. The Boox features, hardware features, are excellent as well, and I'm also giving this one a 9. Things like the fingerprint reader in here, fabulous. The features on the Boyue, just a 6. It's got them, but lack of Wacom comes back to bite it, I think, here. They all incidentally have dual front lights as well. That's one thing I don't need to mention in this comparison. Next, the company. This is a bit difficult because all of these actually are Chinese-facing companies first and foremost. I would say the Boox does the best job of actually speaking to a wider and Western audience. They've been present in the United States for longer than the other two. So the company, in terms of their customer service, first of all, I've given the BigMe the benefit of the doubt in terms of its customer service before, and I'm still going to do that, although here in the United Kingdom I don't think they have much of a presence at all. I have a little bit of experience with that now, and really I'm still giving them the benefit of the doubt by giving them that 7. in terms of they are very communicative and they do seem to take a personal approach to dealing with any customer service issues, and that's a good thing, I think. The books, again, I don't hear many complaints about this. Similarly, I don't hear people shouting from the rooftops about how good it is, and customers do talk about how they feel about some other e-ink tablet companies who work really, really hard to maintain that personal approach. One thing I do like about the books is actually the user guides are thorough, and although there is a steep learning curve, you will find answers and you will be answered by the people at Boox as well. They also make a lot of video user guides, which are quite cool as well. So that's a really good thing about Boox. They're making sure that you can get the most and you can use them for all of the functions that they're actually advertising that they can do. Often I'll say I can't do something and then I'll get an email from Boox and say, look, you should have done it this way. So there always is a way to do it. It's just a matter of actually finding them. And the Boyue, well, I can't actually find out where you go for customer service with Boyue. I know they were called the Likebook range of devices, and now they're called the Me Book. So there's questions over whether this company is sort of here for the long haul, really. We'll see, but I've given them just a 2 because honestly, as a Western-facing person, I couldn't actually find out how to get customer service from them. I would hope if you buy from them that you get some sort of email, but you might maybe have actually bought this through a third-party website anyway, and so you wouldn't necessarily have direct contact with them as a company. So I think that they need to look into that in terms of their Western-facing customer service. The next to talk about is the cloud, and there is a cloud for all 3 of them. I don't know whether I've actually signed up for one with the Boyue, and so I don't really have much to commentate on that. I don't think there's an app. I don't think there's much in terms of that cloud integration. However, because it's a Google Play device, you can of course use your cloud of choice. So that's absolutely fine on there. And most people would probably prefer to use their Google Drive or their Dropbox. And of course you can do that on here. The notes, it does seem, do sync to the cloud. And so if you were to lose your information, you could get it back onto a new device of this kind. Push.books is absolutely fine. You can get documents on there just fine. It's solid, it's free, it's nice to have your notebooks backed up. I wonder why the PDF files can't be backed up, and there is a way to sync all the book data. So if you have the same file in the same place on a different device, then it will actually sync all of the annotations and things and other attributes of that file. So that's possible, although Boyue was having trouble actually syncing those things. And if Voya's having trouble doing something, it means it's a little bit too unnecessarily complex. So that's an interesting point to make about the Boox Tab Ultra, but I'm still going to give it a 7 because I've never not been able to do what I want on the cloud service here. And with BigMe, there are cloud services and they do seem to exist. I can't seem to really set mine up because I've downloaded the app and I've tried to log in, but it just gives me an error message all in Chinese and I can't decipher that. So there's work to be done there. However, there are some useful things. For instance, those meeting notes, you can actually just export them and it will sync up to the cloud and it will give you a link or it will give you a QR code and you can send that to someone and they can download that. They can access that during the next 7 days. Now, how secure is that is another question. And with all these devices, you might think about security. One thing that Boox were careful to do is to make sure they have EU servers and US servers, and that's an important thing for security if you're in the West and working with any level of sensitive data. You know, I'm lucky the things that I do with these devices aren't particularly sensitive. I don't store student detail on those devices at all. It's just generally me organizing myself or me looking after my own little world of YouTube content creation. It's not something that I'm particularly sensitive about where that information is stored, although I know that's an important one for you guys. And it's a difficult one. As I find more and as I feel more confident in this, I will eventually make a full video where I discuss security on these devices. I don't understand the security side of it quite well enough to really give you that information. I would always welcome anybody who's got a lot of information about that to sort of teach me so that I can become that more expert person and talk about security in the cloud. But this is just the cloud services as I've found. And finally, in terms of the different categories, is the updates. This one's just had an update, which is good. It hadn't had one for a little while. The updates with Boox are pretty constant, and there is a function, there is a feature just directly to give feedback to Boox, just really quickly. Here from the menu, you can see the FAQs that I've talked about here before, and you can add a new piece of feedback which Boox do act on. They do act pretty darn quickly on those things. We get updates for just 1 or 2 little bug fixes, 1 or 2 little patches quite regularly. It's nice to see a company working that way. I haven't actually used this device for quite some time, and I was expecting it to update today because of that, and it hadn't. Whether this is just it's the B1 Pro Max Plus color and they're really looking at updating the Inknote and working very hard on the Galley, which is coming soon, I don't know, but I was surprised to see that it hadn't updated today after not having been used for a few months. Updates on the Boox, as I said, come thick and fast, and I'm going to give the Boox an 8 for updates, and updates on the Boyue I'm just going to give a 4, although I could probably update that score from today, but it's already in my comparison table and I'm quite happy with it the way it is. It's nice to see the side-by-side though coming to the device, which could actually make it amazing. I think they're still a way off having things like handwriting recognition, which would be a very useful thing to bring to the device. There just isn't much in terms of the note-taking aspects in this device. So lastly, it's flow. Boox have worked really hard to make their devices more flowy. They, however, are committed to, it seems, adding every single feature that every competitor does use, and that does make it a huge device in terms of the different options that you can have. However, what I would say is, as I've become more used to this device, I have felt more comfortable with it and more confident that I can make it do what I want without those niggling moments where how do I and where is that function, all of those things. There is usually a way to do what you want to do on this device, and once you learn that way, then it's perfectly fine. It makes perfect sense why it's there and why it works like that. So I will give this quite a high score on the flow. Remember, these are all double weighted, so this is like saying it's an 8, but I'm going to double weight that and give it a 16. Flow on the BigMe is something that I've talked about quite a lot. It is not the device you want if you care almost purely about flow, because there are several times, every time I use this, I find myself thinking to myself, where is this and why can't I get to that and how do I find that? And then there are times when I think I found that, but the information is just in Chinese. It's not quite translated into the Western market yet. I hope that they're working on it. I hope they're listening to that feedback, because it's meant really, really positively for them, because they make really good hardware. And I hope that they're working well with good e-reader now to really make these devices excellent for a Western market. I would strongly suggest they look at using a more Android-like, a more kind of stock Android-like homepage. You know, this is just not what we're used to seeing. The Boox adding in the little, it seems so simple, adding in the little row of ordinary Android buttons means that you can just more quickly get to the things that you want to get to. And the widgets there as well make it just much more of a flowy device. And lastly, Boyue does work, does everything you need it to do. You just need to, well, doesn't do everything, but because it's quite limited in a way, it's quite a simple device in its functionality, it does actually feel like quite a flowy device, and I quite enjoyed having this around. It's quite simple, yet it has the powerful Google Play features that, well, if you're watching this video, that might be what you want. What I'm saying with the BigMe is that they've got the hardware, they've got the ideas, but they haven't executed it in the most elegant manner, and that's what I want to see them focus on, really. I want to see them focus on this here. That would also mean they'd have to increase their updates, and probably that would involve them improving their Notes app somewhat as well. And then we'd have a device which is what it should be, what it kind of billed as. And I'm giving this device currently, I'm giving it 66. Well, I gave this particular device 65, but I gave BigMe's latest one, the good e-reader Inknote, 66. So I'm going to stick with that as an overall score for BigMe right now. That's where they're at. I can't really wait to see what's coming next, because they're bringing the Galley out, and the Eink gallery should be a really interesting thing with a really high resolution color. Should be interesting. Watch this space. It does seem as if the refresh rates aren't nearly as good as this color panel, and the refresh rates aren't great on the color panels at all. The total for this is for the Boox Tab Ultra, but you should see this as just being the best current. For Boox 85, fantastic score. What a great device. Really, if you want Google Play at the moment, this is probably still the way to go. You might be thinking to hold your breath, is there going to be a 300 DPI Boox coming out soon? Is there going to be a color Boox coming out soon? And it might not be this size that you want. If you really want the full functionality, you might want to look at the Tab X. However, look into the Tab Ultra because its keyboard functionality is great as well. And also look at the Note Air 2 Plus if you know you actually prefer a more notebook style device. And lastly, the Boyue. This is not an expensive device at all, and it was featured therefore in my wrap up of all of the best value e-ink tablets, but don't expect it to be able to compete in all of these different categories with the bigger devices. So it's really a very nice device. I've enjoyed using it. I wouldn't kick it out of bed, but if you want to go more fully featured, if color's the most important thing for you, then by all means, the BigMe devices are going to do the business for you. They do have the features, they do work, they are solving real problems for real people in the real world. But Boox, currently, of the 3 Google Play Store kings, the full Android devices, the ones that feel and behave like a device, like a tablet, but unlike any other tablet, Boox is still the king at that. And the exciting thing is that things are improving very rapidly in the world of these full Android e-ink tablets. So watch this space for more coming in this year and in the years to come.